Hello and welcome to Starbound's second channel. My name is Gabriel the Bibi Capaldi and I'll be your narrator today. But before we get into today's story, please do check down below that you are subscribed to the channel. It's 100% free and helps us pop up on your feed a bit more often. You must conquer Earth to join the Galactic Council. That was the order Great Counselor Xavak gave to the Trailar warriors when they reached the galactic stage and requested membership. Xavak's words were all Kronar thought as he sat casually in the ruler's throne of his flagship, an unnamed craft simply referred to as Serial Number 2, in Kronar's opinion, the very best of all three that were produced by the Trailar Empire. The throne, carved from the hardest metal known to his species, had been shaped to accommodate his powerful frame and was adorned with the skulls of worthy opponents from past conquests. Each skull had been meticulously cleaned and polished to a reflective sheen, serving as both decoration and reminder of victories past. Kronar himself was a specimen that inspired both awe and terror even among his own kind. Standing at 6.5 feet tall, his body was a living proof to generations of selective breeding and perfectioning of combat. His leathery brown skin, thicker than standard body armor, was crisscrossed with ritual scars that told the story of his rise to power. Each scar represented a challenge overcome, an enemy defeated, a rank ascended. His piercing yellow eyes constantly scanned his surroundings, missing nothing. Set deep within his elongated skull, they glowed with predatory intelligence. Framing his face, long silver hair fell in warrior braids, each strand thick and coarse, adorned with small metal rings that commemorated battles won and enemies defeated. Each of his 5 fingers ended in retractable claws capable of slicing through weaker metal alloys, and his jaw could unhinge to reveal rows of serrated teeth designed for tearing flesh from bone. Earth approached in the viewport, drawing the attention of the crew members who gathered in the bridge below Kronar, their powerful and muscular frames leaving no doubt in Kronar's mind about their chances against humans in the unlikely scenario of infantry-based conflict. Each Trailar warrior stood around 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and thick limbs that bulged with dense muscle. Their skin ranged from deep ochre to almost black, depending on which region of their homeworld they hailed from, and each bore the distinctive rigid brow and protruding jaw characteristic of their species. The bridge officers moved accurately despite their size, their movements economical and contained. What might have appeared as clumsiness to an outside observer was actually the careful navigation of beings who knew their own strength. Their superior build wasn't some gift gained purely by evolution, nor was it the result of scientific endeavor. Everything from their muscular structure, thick brown skin, resistant bones, thick skulls, and even the endurance that could rival that of humans was a product of hundreds of generations of artificial selection, where across all ages, genders, and races, the only rule was the rule of the sword. The strongest Trailar mated with the strongest, creating offspring that were then subjected to brutal training from the moment they could walk. Those who survived became warriors. Those who excelled became leaders. Every few generations, clan would fight clan, region would war with region, and only the victors would contribute their genetic material to the next generation. It was a harsh system, but one that had produced a species of warriors unmatched in physical combat throughout their known galaxy. Their technology had advanced not through peaceful research, but through the necessity of war. Each new weapon, each new ship design, tested in real combat conditions. The weak died, the strong survived, and the species as a whole moved forward. Curiosity. This was the very reason for the utter silence in the bridge as they approached yet another conquest, not a hint of fear from those who had seen too much. The crew had seen the human transmissions, their wars, and what passed as entertainment for that species. Yellow eyes studied the tactical displays with cold calculation. Yet the only possible conclusion they could take was that humans were weak and soft. For them, a species who didn't fight a world war every decade was not worth their place in the universe, not a war of mutual destruction like the humans, that was useless to select the strongest, but a war of blades and fists, where the best of each generation gained their place in their leadership structure. Kronar watched the blue-green planet grow larger in the main viewport. He had studied the reports on Earth, of course, a species that had only recently discovered nuclear fission, with primitive spacecraft that barely left their own atmosphere. Their most advanced weapons were missiles that traveled at a fraction of the speed of light, their defenses limited to what they could launch from their planet's surface. By all measures, this should be an easy conquest, a mere formality before the Trailar could take their rightful place in the Galactic Council. And yet, something about the humans intrigued him. Their transmissions showed a species that spoke endlessly of peace while waging constant war. They claimed to value life while creating ever more efficient ways to end it. They were, in many ways, a contradiction. Physically weak compared to the Trailar, yet they had survived on a planet with some of the most dangerous wildlife he had ever seen. "They are launching their missiles, Great One," said the officer in charge of defense, Sothar, his voice the very definition of calmness. There wasn't a single trace of fear hormones in the atmosphere, just like Kronar expected from his crew. With his claws tapping on the throne's support, he narrowed his yellow eyes and ordered, "Intercept with the sacrificial drones. Don't you dare to underestimate them." Sothar bowed his head in acknowledgement. "Deploying interceptors now, Great One." His order was executed nearly instantly, and the main tactical screen showed each missile launched from the ground successfully intercepted before they could explode, which brought no more joy to the crew than the news that desert sand was dry. Beneath the viewports, the navigation officer, Dralak, manipulated the controls with ease. His fingers, thick as they were, moved with surprising delicacy across the interface. "Atmospheric entry in 3 pulsations, Great One," he announced, his deep voice rumbling through the bridge. "Optimal landing trajectory calculated and locked." Yet again, only the silence of the ship's shield burning against the atmosphere was heard on the bridge. But what else to expect from the species that would one day reach the pinnacle of evolution? Both their collective and individual goals, after all, was to reach the very top, be it the food chain of the galaxy or the social structure of their species. The ship shuddered slightly as it hit the thicker layers of Earth's atmosphere, the heavy shields glowing bright orange from the friction. On the view screen, the blue of space gave way to the lighter blue of sky. Clouds rushed past as they descended, and soon the landscape below became visible, a patchwork of cities, forests, and bodies of water. "More missiles incoming," reported Sothar, his clawed fingers dancing across his console. "Primitive nuclear warheads intercepting now." On the tactical display, dozens of small dots rose from the surface, arcing toward the Trailar ships. Without waiting for further orders, the defense systems deployed another wave of drones. The resulting explosions were visible even from the bridge, small flashes of light in the distance as the human weapons were neutralized before they could reach their targets. Sothar didn't even bother to report the successful defense. It was expected, not worthy of mention. The Trailar ship continued its descent, unimpeded by the humans' best effort to stop them. As they approached the surface, Kronar leaned forward in his throne. "Broadcast my message to the humans," he commanded. "Let them know who has come to claim their world." "Preparing translation and transmission procedures, Great One," responded the communications officer, Zarak. His fingers worked quickly over his console, setting up the complex algorithms that would convert Kronar's speech into all major human languages simultaneously. "The translator drones are ready for deployment." Within minutes, a small spherical device detached from the ceiling and hovered before Kronar's throne. Its metallic surface gleamed in the bridge's lighting, and a small lens opened to capture his image and words. Transmission will broadcast on all known human communication frequencies, Zarak announced. Ready when you are, Great One. Kronar straightened his muscular frame, his yellow eyes focusing on the drone while he stared straight ahead, as if looking directly at the humans who would soon be watching. When he spoke, his voice was deep and resonant, designed to command attention and respect. "People of Earth," he began, his sharp teeth glinting as he spoke. "I am Fleet Commander Kronar of the Trailar Dominion. We have come to claim your world as part of our territory, as is our right as the stronger species. Your planet will be incorporated into our holdings, and your people will serve the Dominion as is fitting." He paused, allowing his words to sink in. "I hope, for the sake of honor, that you will resist. A conquest without struggle is like meat without blood, tasteless and unsatisfying. But make no mistake, your resistance, while welcomed, will not change the final outcome. The strong devour the weak. This is the way of the universe." Kronar's lips pulled back in what might have been a smile on a human face, but on his was a display of predatory intent. "Know that we can easily reduce your cities to ash from orbit. We could exterminate your species without ever setting foot on your soil. But where would be the glory in such a victory? No, we will meet your fighters both in the air and on land. We will test our strength against yours, blade against blade, warrior against warrior." He leaned closer to the drone, his voice dropping to a growl. "May the strongest triumph. This is the only law that matters." With a gesture, he signaled for the transmission to end. The drone retracted its lens and returned to its docking station on the ceiling. Kronar turned his attention back to the bridge crew. "Prepare for landing," he ordered. "Choose sites near their population centers. We will give the humans time to gather their weapons before we begin the ground assault. We will spare what they call civilians." "As you command, Great One," Dralak responded, already adjusting their course. "I have identified suitable landing zones near the major cities. We will be touching down in approximately 7 pulsations." No one objected or proposed a bombardment. For the Trailar, if they were unable to win on those terms, that only meant that they were unworthy of victory. Such was their culture, and such was their way. To win through technological superiority alone would bring no honor, no advancement to their species. Only by testing themselves against worthy opponents could they continue their upward evolution. The ship began its final descent, breaking through the cloud cover to reveal a sprawling human city below. As they approached, the defensive systems continued to intercept incoming missiles, the explosions creating a perverse kind of fireworks display around the ship. "Great One," called Brara, the tactical officer, his voice cutting through the focused silence of the bridge. "The humans have developed aerial combat vehicles. Our defense systems are destroying them, but several squadrons will reach our position within minutes." Kronar's mouth stretched into what passed for a smile among his kind. "Good," he said simply. "Let them come." With deliberate movements, Kronar rose from his throne and descended the 3 steps that elevated it above the bridge floor. Now, at the same level as his crew, the differences between them became more subtle. He was taller than most, broader across the shoulders, his muscles more defined under his leathery skin. But what truly set him apart was his bearing, the confident stance of one who had fought his way to leadership, who had earned his position through combat and cunning, rather than having it bestowed upon him. His ceremonial armor, worn over the standard uniform, bore the marks of actual combat, scratches and dents that he had refused to have repaired. "Test the external atmosphere," Kronar commanded, turning to the environmental officer. "I want to experience the pleasure of stepping onto this new world before battle begins." I want to look into the eyes of the human warriors before they have a chance to surrender. The environmental officer, Trax, immediately activated the external sensors. "Analyzing now, Great One," he reported, his eyes fixed on the scrolling data. "The primary component is nitrogen, followed by oxygen. Trace amounts of argon, carbon dioxide, and water vapor. Temperature is within our comfortable range. Gravity is approximately 0.92 of our homeworld standard. We will feel somewhat lighter here." After several moments of careful analysis, Trax looked up. "The oxygen percentage is higher than our optimal range, but well within our tolerance levels. We may experience a slight euphoria until our systems adjust, but there are no toxic elements present in significant quantities. The atmosphere is safe for us, Great One." Kronar acknowledged with a nod. "Perhaps the landing party," he ordered. "Full combat gear, but ceremonial weapons only for the first contact. We will honor these humans with blades before we use energy weapons." The crew moved quickly to carry out his orders. The ship's systems began cycling through the landing procedures, extending the massive landing struts, equalizing internal and external pressure, preparing the boarding ramp for deployment. Warning signals flashed as the artificial gravity adjusted to match Earth's natural pull, and the ship's engines shifted from propulsion to stabilization. Armor was distributed and checked. Weapons were inspected and blessed according to Tralar tradition. Each warrior touched the blade of their ceremonial sword to their forehead, murmuring the ancient words that had been spoken before battle for countless generations. "Through combat, we evolve. Through victory, we ascend." Kronar himself supervised the preparations, inspecting each warrior personally, ensuring that they represented the Tralar Dominion with appropriate martial dignity. Only when he was satisfied did he give the final order to open the ship's main doors. With a hiss, the massive ramp lowered to touch Earth's soil for the first time. Sunlight flooded the loading bay, and with it came the first breath of Earth's air, richer in oxygen than they were used to, carrying the unfamiliar sense of a new world. Kronar led his warriors down the ramp, their heavy footsteps creating a continuous thunder on the metal surface. As they emerged from the ship, they found themselves in what appeared to be an open field on the outskirts of a human city. In the distance, the distinctive shapes of human structures rose against the sky, primitive and chaotic to Tralar eyes, lacking the martial precision of their own architecture. The Tralar warriors spread out in a defensive formation around their ship, following protocols established over centuries of planetary conquests. Kronar stood at the center, inhaling deeply of Earth's atmosphere. The higher oxygen content did indeed create a slight buzzing sensation in his brain, a pleasant lightheadedness that he quickly controlled through disciplined breathing. The ground beneath them shook with the approach of human ground vehicles, and the air vibrated with the sound of fighter jets breaking the sound barrier overhead. Around them, dust and debris stirred in the winds created by their ship's still-active stabilizers, creating a swirling cloud that added to the dramatic scene of their arrival. Kronar looked to the horizon, where he still couldn't spot the human vehicles, but he knew they had them, primitive tanks and armored personnel carriers, from what he could tell. Above, the contrails of fighter jets crisscrossed the blue sky, drawing ever closer to their position. A smile spread across his face, revealing rows of serrated teeth. This was how conquest should be, standing on the soil of a new world, facing its defenders in honorable combat. Soon, they would test the mettle of these humans, and if they proved worthy adversaries, maybe the conquest would take days instead of hours. Either way, soon, the planet would belong to the Tralar, and their place in the Galactic Council would be secured. Little did Kronar know that the Earth itself had its own ideas about how the day would end, a planet with more changes to offer than meets the eye. As the ground began to tremble beneath Kronar's feet from the approaching human vehicles, he stood with his warriors in the open field, watching as the first skirmishes began in the sky above. The contrails of human fighter jets crisscrossed the blue expanse as they engaged the Tralar atmospheric fighters. "Impressive reaction time," Kronar remarked to Sothar, who stood at his right.
They mobilized their defenses more quickly than anticipated.
A sign of worthy opponents, Great One, Sothar replied, his yellow eyes tracking the aerial battle. Kronar watched for several moments longer, then made his decision.
Bring forth the Kralorax, he commanded. I wish to observe the battlefield properly.
Warriors moved immediately to execute his order. From the cargo bay of their flagship, a massive mechanical construct emerged. The Kralorax, a six-legged assault vehicle that served as a mobile command center for Tralar ground forces. The machine stood 20 feet tall on its articulated limbs, the joints exuding power as it descended the loading ramp. Only 50 of such vehicles had been brought to Earth, each assigned to a fleet commander who had proven themselves worthy through combat. "Your command center awaits, Great One," announced the pilot, a veteran warrior named Drahix, who had served with Kronar for 7 campaigns. Kronar approached the vehicle, climbing the extended boarding ladder at once. His warriors watched with reverent silence. The boarding of a Kralorax was a ceremonial moment, the commander physically elevating himself above the battlefield to better direct the conquest. Once inside, he made his way to the elevated observation platform that provided a 360-degree view of the surrounding terrain. From this new vantage point, Kronar could see the battle developing across multiple fronts. The human fighters, though technologically inferior, displayed surprising maneuverability.
"Sector 3 has engaged with human ground forces," reported the tactical officer,
his yellow eyes fixed on the holographic display.
"Initial resistance is as expected. Armored vehicles and infantry with projectile weapons."
Kronar's lips pulled back in a predatory smile.
"Take us forward," he ordered. "I wish to test their mettle personally."
The Kralorax launched into motion, its 6 legs finding purchase on the uneven ground with surprising grace for such a massive machine. Each step covered several meters, and soon they were approaching the front line of the battle. Kronar moved to the weapons station, wrapping his 5-fingered hands around the control yokes. The neural interface embedded in the controls linked with the receptors in his palms, allowing him to feel the weapons as extensions of his own body. The battlefield spread out before him, human tanks and artillery positioned on a ridge approximately 2 kilometers away, their weapons already firing at the advancing Tralar forces. Their shells exploded harmlessly against the sheer thickness of the Tralar ground vehicles, the flashes of light more annoying than threatening. Kronar targeted the nearest tank formation and squeezed the trigger, the main cannon of the Kralorax shining as it charged, and then released a blindingly bright beam of energy that cut through 3 tanks in succession, leaving them as smoldering wrecks.
"The armor is even weaker than our intelligence suggested,"
Kronar noted, almost disappointed.
"No challenge at all."
"Perhaps they are holding back their best weapons, Great One," suggested the tactical officer. "A trap, perhaps?" Kronar fired again, destroying another cluster of human vehicles.
"Perhaps, but we didn't give them time to set traps."
For nearly 30 minutes, the battle continued in this manner, the Tralar forces systematically destroying human resistance with minimal losses. Kronar was beginning to think the conquest would be completed before their first solar day on Earth had concluded. Then came the drones. They appeared seemingly from nowhere, small, buzzing machines that swarmed towards the Tralar positions in overwhelming numbers. Each carried a small explosive charge, not powerful enough to damage the Tralar vehicles individually, but dangerous in their sheer quantity. "Explosive drones approaching from multiple vectors," announced the sensor officer, his voice remaining calm despite the sudden change in battle conditions. "Hundreds, no, thousands of them." Kronar watched as the swarm enveloped one of the smaller Tralar assault craft. The explosions came in rapid succession, eventually overwhelming its shields and damaging the propulsion system. It didn't destroy the craft, but it forced an emergency landing.
"Deploy our counter-swarm,"
Kronar ordered without hesitation. Within moments, the Trailar ships released their own swarm of defensive drones, sleek, metallic spheres that moved with predatory intent. Each contained a small energy weapon designed specifically for such encounters.
The humans are more resourceful than expected,
Kronar said, his tone suggesting this was a welcome development rather than a concern.
Good. Victory without challenge brings no honor.
As he watched the mechanized conflict above, Kronar felt a familiar restlessness. Commanding from a distance was necessary, but it lacked the visceral satisfaction of personal combat. His muscles tensed with the desire to test himself against these humans directly, to feel the resistance of their bodies against his blade. His opportunity came moments later. "Great One," called the sensor officer. "Human air transports detected at coordinates 2783. They appear to be deploying infantry via aerial descent devices." Kronar moved to the tactical display, where he could see the heat signatures of human soldiers descending on thin canopies that slowed their fall to a survivable speed. The primitive method amused him, but he respected their willingness to enter combat despite their technological disadvantages.
"Take us there,"
he commanded, his voice thick with anticipation.
"I wish to meet these warriors personally."
"As you command, Great One," responded Drahix, adjusting their course. "Estimated arrival in 3 pulsations." Kronar turned to the warriors stationed within the Kralorax.
"Prepare for ground combat," he ordered. "Ceremonial blades and laser rifles only. This will be a proper test of our superiority."
The warriors responded with eager salutes, checking their weapons one by one. Like Kronar, they had been bred for combat, and the opportunity to taste first blood on a new planet was a sacred ritual to them, one that no automated killing machine could replace.
"Zarskran, Voldar, Mektos, Zarin, you will accompany me,"
Kronar selected, naming 4 of his most trusted combat veterans.
"The rest will maintain the Kralorax's defensive perimeter."
As they moved towards the human drop zone, a communication came through from the fleet. "2 of our atmospheric fighters have been destroyed by human forces," reported the communications officer Zarak. "The pilots did not survive." Rather than concern, this news brought expressions of satisfaction to the faces of the Trailar warriors.
"Good,"
Kronar said simply.
"Their weakness has been purged from our ranks. Their deaths strengthen our species."
This was the Trailar way. Failure meant death, and death of the weak meant strengthening of the collective. The loss of 2 ships was insignificant compared to the evolutionary benefit of removing inferior warriors from their genetic pool. The Kralorax moved swiftly across the landscape, its 6 legs easily navigating the varied terrain. As they approached the drop zone, Kronar could see the human soldiers regrouping after their landing, establishing defensive positions with a speed that surprised him. Perhaps these humans understood combat better than he had given them credit for.
"Halt here,"
he commanded when they were approximately 500 meters from the human position.
"Lower the assault ramp."
Quickly, the boarding ramp extended to the ground. Kronar led his small team of warriors down to Earth's surface once more, the higher oxygen content of the atmosphere still creating a pleasant euphoria that he controlled through disciplined breathing. Each warrior carried both a ceremonial blade, molecularly sharpened to cut through almost any material, and a laser rifle for ranged combat.
"Spread formation,"
Kronar ordered as they advanced towards the human position.
"I will take point."
The 5 Trailar warriors moved with deadly purpose, their movements fluid despite their powerful frames. Kronar felt a rush of nostalgia as they advanced. It reminded him of his youth, when he had fought as a common soldier during the unification wars on their homeworld, before he had earned the right to command, before his name had become feared across 3 star systems. They approached a ridge that overlooked the human position. Kronar signaled for his warriors to halt, then peered over the edge. Below, 20 human soldiers had established a defensive perimeter, their weapons trained outward, scanning for threats. They wore camouflage that matched Earth's vegetation and carried what appeared to be projectile weapons of some kind. For a moment, Kronar simply observed them, noting their discipline. They were smaller than Trailar, certainly, but they moved in a way that seemed alert to their surroundings. This would be a worthwhile test. He signaled to his warriors, and as one, they rose and charged down the slope. The humans detected them immediately, shouting warnings and bringing their weapons to bear. Projectiles whizzed past Kronar's head, but he never allowed himself to get shot. The first human came into view, a male with determined eyes behind a clear face shield. For a heartbeat, Kronar locked gazes with him, yellow eyes meeting brown. In that moment, he felt the thrill of true combat. Warrior against warrior, will against will. The human raised his weapon, but Kronar was faster. His laser rifle fired a single precise shot that struck the human in the chest, ending the confrontation exactly as Kronar had intended. Around him, his warriors engaged the other humans. The battle was brief but intense, the humans fighting with surprising courage despite being outmatched in every physical way. Within minutes, the human squad had been neutralized, with only minimal injuries to the Trailar force, scratches and minor burns that would heal quickly.
A worthy first engagement,
Kronar declared, surveying the battlefield.
They fought well for such fragile creatures.
The first hour of the invasion passed with similar successes across all fronts. Reports came in from other Trailar commanders of human resistance being constantly overcome. Their aerial forces were being decimated, their ground vehicles destroyed, their infantry outmatched. Kronar moved with his team from engagement to engagement, testing himself against different human fighting units, his natural senses of smell and hearing making it easy to locate and eliminate them before they could effectively organize. Yet the humans were not so weak as to allow even a moment of distraction or carelessness. In one engagement, a human soldier nearly succeeded in flanking Kronar's position. Only his warrior reflexes saved him from what might have been his death. He respected their tactics, even as he continued to defeat them. As the second hour of combat began, however, troubling reports started to come in from various Trailar units. "Great One," called Zarak through the communication channel. "We're receiving reports of warriors experiencing respiratory distress. Several have reported uncontrollable coughing, and one pilot collapsed mid-flight, resulting in the loss of an entire assault craft." Kronar frowned.
Weakness, he declared dismissively. Their bodies are simply adjusting to the higher oxygen levels. Those who cannot adapt fast are not worthy of participating in this conquest.
He continued, leading his small team through a wooded area, tracking a group of human special forces that had been reported in the vicinity. The hunt was exhilarating, reminding him of training exercises from his youth. As he crouched to examine a footprint, however, a sudden tickle in his throat caused him to cough once. He thought nothing of it and continued the pursuit. By the third hour, something had changed dramatically. The tide of battle had shifted in ways that should not have been possible. Reports came in of Trailar warriors collapsing during battle, of ships making emergency landings due to incapacitated crews, of defensive positions being overrun because the defenders were too weak to maintain their posts.
"This is not possible,"
Kronar growled as he led his team, now reduced to 3 as Voldar and Mektos had succumbed to whatever was affecting them, back toward the Kralarax.
"We are stronger in every way. How could they be defeating us?"
He needed to return to the flagship, to consult with the medical teams who were trying to understand what was happening. As they approached the Kralarax, Kronar noticed that all of his remaining warriors were coughing frequently now, and Zarin was moving with visible difficulty. As Kronar himself climbed the boarding ramp, he felt a strange lightheadedness that had nothing to do with the oxygen content of the atmosphere. The horizon seemed to blur at the edges of his vision, and his legendary strength seemed diminished somehow.
"Take us back to the landing zone,"
he ordered Drahix as they entered the command center. The Kralarax lurched into motion, but its movements seemed uncoordinated now. Through the viewports, Kronar could see that everyone on the bridge was coughing. Drahix was blinking rapidly, as if trying to clear his vision.
Maintain course.
Drax struggled to speak, his hands shaking on the controls. Suddenly, the pilot slumped forward, unconscious. The Kralorax's systems immediately went into emergency shutdown, the massive vehicle grinding to a halt as its legs locked in place. Kronar stumbled toward the pilot's station, intending to take control, but the world tilted strangely around him.
Weak.
He managed to accuse his crew as darkness crept in from the edges of his vision.
All of you. Weak.
Then the darkness took him completely. Kronar woke to the sterile brightness of a white room, his body strapped to some kind of bed and surrounded by unfamiliar medical equipment. His first instinct was to break free, but his muscles refused to respond with their usual strength. He felt weak, diminished, as if he had lost a significant amount of muscle mass. His warrior brain, trained to assess situations quickly, told him that many days must have passed. His body felt hollow, his legendary endurance replaced by a bone-deep fatigue that he had never experienced before. Turning his head, even that simple movement required effort, he found himself facing humans in white protective suits. They stood at a respectful distance, observing him with expressions he couldn't quite read through their clear face shields. One of them, a female judging by her body structure, stepped closer when she noticed he was conscious. Kronar stared at her, his yellow eyes struggling to focus properly.
How did this happen?
He asked, his voice barely recognizable even to himself.
How could we lose? How could I lose?
He had no idea if the humans had any way to translate his words, or if they would even bother to respond to a defeated enemy. The human female exchanged looks with the others, and Kronar could see them reaching some sort of agreement. She turned back to him and began to speak, gesturing to a device on a nearby table that apparently translated her words into a rough approximation of the Trailar language. "Your species had every advantage in the initial fight," she explained, her translated voice sounding artificial but understandable. "From what we've gathered, your bodies are amazing, with a metabolism several times faster than that of a human's. Your technology is also far advanced beyond ours. This was more of an Earth victory than a human victory." Kronar didn't understand. If their bodies and technology were superior, how could they have been defeated so completely? He expressed this confusion as best he could through his weakened state. As he struggled to understand reality, the human's expression softened slightly behind her face shield. "The best way to explain it is this. We've analyzed your blood and tissue samples. The viruses and bacteria from your homeworld could only be described as cute when compared to what lives on Earth." She paused, allowing that to reach his prideful core. "More than 80% of your warriors didn't survive the first week, even after our best efforts with antibiotics and antivirals." Kronar felt the truth of her words sink into him like a blade between the ribs. It wasn't combat that had defeated them. It was the invisible life forms that inhabited this planet. The greatest warriors in known space, laid low by enemies too small to see.
Why?
He struggled to form the words.
Why have you not killed us all? The victors claimed the spoils.
Another human stepped forward, a male. "We wanted information," he said through the translator. "We've already learned much from the other warriors who woke up first." He paused, studying Kronar's reaction. "We know you tried to conquer Earth because it was some sort of test to join a galactic council. We believe your species was set up to fail." Kronar laughed, though it came out as more of a wheeze. This was not the fault of any setup. It was the fault of his body for not being strong enough.
"Weakness,"
he said simply.
"Our bodies failed the test. How do humans survive this planet?"
The male human adjusted something on his suit before responding. "It's a perpetual battle against viruses and bacteria," he explained. "Each moment, our bodies are fighting to avoid being eaten alive by these microorganisms. Your species never developed an immune system capable of fighting constantly, since most microbial life in your bodies is symbiotic rather than harmful." Kronar considered this. The humans had not defeated them through superior strength or technology, but through simply being born in this world of invisible killers. Their bodies had been hardened by constant warfare on a microscopic level that the Trailer had never experienced. The female human moved closer, checking one of the machines connected to Kronar. Even when we're just lazying around, scrolling on our phones and watching cat videos, our bodies are fighting a deadly battle against microscopic life, she said, her tone almost gentle. That's what it means to be born on Earth. For perhaps the first time in his life, Kronar felt something akin to respect for a physically weaker species. These humans fought battles every moment of their lives without even being aware of it. They were warriors in ways the Trailer had never considered.
What happens now?
He asked, his mind already calculating possibilities for escape or honorable death. The male human stepped forward again. We keep your ships, he said bluntly, but we also plan to contact your homeworld. Our scientific teams have concluded that humanity has a better chance dealing directly with your warrior culture than with this council that try to screw both our species over. Kronar's eyes widened slightly.
You would seek alliance after battle?
The female nodded. We're adapting some of your translation technology right now. If we can heal you, we want you to help us establish communication. Earth has been pushed into the galactic stage, but we're doing it on our terms, not the Council's. For the first time since waking, Kronar felt something other than shame or anger. Perhaps this defeat wasn't the end of his story, but the beginning of something new. If humans could fight invisible enemies every day of their lives and still survive, perhaps they could be allies after all. The strongest survive. This was the Trailar way, and on this day, he had to acknowledge that humans, in their own unexpected way, might be stronger than anyone would think. Strong enough to survive Earth, and as he had learned the hard way, that is no trivial feat.